10 marks question. Shoulder joint is a 10 marks question. Right now, shoulder joint is a ball and socket variety. Shoulder joint is a ball and socket variety. It is a multi-axial joint. It is a multi-axial joint. Okay, it is a multi-axial joint. Location located in the ekkadundi location ikkada idi emanali located in the shoulder region. Located in the shoulder region. Okay, next, bones forming the joint. Bones forming the joint. Two bones forms a joint. Two bones. Number one, glenoid cavity of the scapula. Number one, glenoid cavity of the scapula. And number two, head of the humerus. Head of the humerus. Glenoid cavity of the scapula and head of the humerus. So bones gurinchi ikkada rayali. Glenoid cavity gurinchi, head of the humerus gurinchi introduction raskoవాలి. Okay, so first, glenoid cavity. Glenoid cavity, it is a pear shaped depressed area. It is a pear shaped depressed area present in the lateral angle of the scapula. Present in the lateral angle of the scapula. Above to the glenoid cavity. Above to the glenoid cavity, there is a presence of supraglenoid tubercle. There is a presence of supraglenoid tubercle. Next, below to the glenoid cavity, below to the glenoid cavity, there is a presence of infraglenoid tubercle. Infraglenoid tubercle. Okay, next, glenoidal cavity. Glenoid cavity, peripheral margin. Glenoid cavity, peripheral margin. There is the attachment of cartilaginous rim. Cartilaginous rim called as glenoidal. Cartilaginous rim called as glenoidal labrum. Labrum. L-A-B-R-U-M. Labrum. Glenoidal labrum. Okay. In the section, it look like a. In the section, it look like a triangular shape. Is glenoidal labrum. It look like a triangular shape. Triangular shape. This glenoidal labrum increases the increases the articular cavity, increases the articular cavity, otherwise joint cavity, increases the articular cavity, otherwise joint cavity. So whenever it is attached to the peripheral margin of the glenoid cavity, there is attachment of cartilaginous rim. That cartilaginous rim we called as glenoidal labrum. So whenever we done the section, it look like a triangular shaped labrum. Okay, so it gives a more space to the joint. Okay, next head of the humerus. Head of the humerus. Head of the humerus, which directed superomedially. Head of the humerus, which directed superomedially. Head is articulates with the glenoid cavity of the glenoid cavity of the scapula. Glenoid cavity of the scapula forms a joint called as shoulder joint. Forms a joint called as shoulder joint. Are you getting? So these are two bones forms a joint. Okay. Next, come to the ligaments of the joint. Ligaments of the shoulder joint. Number 1, capsular ligament. Number 1, capsular ligament. In brackets you write down fibrous capsule. Fibrous capsule. Capsular ligament. In brackets you write down fibrous capsule. Okay. And number 2, glenohumeral ligament. Glenohumeral ligament. Second one, glenohumeral ligament. Next, third one, coracohumeral ligament. Next, transverse ligament. Transverse ligament. Next ligament, coracoacromial ligament. Coracoacromial ligament. And another ligament is nothing but glenoidal labrum. Adu kuda rasko. Glenoidal labrum. Okay. So what is the first ligament? Subheading is a capsular ligament. Subheading is a capsular ligament. Capsular ligament envelopes the complete joint. Capsular ligament envelopes the complete joint. Okay. Above it is attached to the peripheral margin of the glenoid cavity. Peripheral margin of the glenoid cavity, above attachment. Next, below it is attached to the anatomical neck of the humerus. Anatomical neck of the humerus. See here the glenoidal cavity. Okay, is the peripheral margin of the glenoid cavity. Peripheral margin. So peripheral margin means it look like a spear-shaped cavity. So peripheral margin, there is attachment of capsular ligament. So capsular ligament attaches here. Are you getting? Above attachment. Then below it is attaches to the anatomical neck. It's the anatomical neck, right? So this one is a capsular ligament. Are you getting? This one is a capsular ligament. Above attaches to the peripheral margin of the glenoid cavity. Then below it is attaches to the anatomical neck. In the humerus, there is a presence of 3 types of necks. So number 1 is anatomical neck, and number 2 is a surgical neck, and number 3 is a morphological neck. So whenever we done the coronal section, we get the morphological neck. So this neck is a surgical neck. Surgical neck, it is important to the surgeries. So that's why we call here surgical neck, because there is a presence of anterior and posterior circumflex humeral arteries surround the surgical neck, and also it is surrounded by the axillary nerve also. So అందుకని నేను ఏమంటున్నాం surgical neck. Then this one is the anatomical neck. So below it is attaches to the anatomical neck. Are you getting? Next, come to the next ligament. Now what is the next ligament? Glenohumeral ligament. Glenohumeral ligament. Glenohumeral ligament. Glenohumeral ligament. It consists of 3 ligaments. Glenohumeral ligament consists of 3 ligaments. Number one, supra glenohumeral ligament, superior glenohumeral ligament. Number 1, superior glenohumeral ligament, and number 2, middle glenohumeral ligament. Number 2, middle glenohumeral ligament, and number 3, inferior glenohumeral ligament. Inferior glenohumeral ligament. Okay, there's a 3 ligaments. So first ligament is a superior glenohumeral ligament. Write down. Superior glenohumeral ligament. Above attachment. Above. Superior glenohumeral ligament. Above attachment. See here. Above it is attaches to the upper part of the anterior margin of the glenoid cavity. Upper part of the and upper part of the anterior margin of the glenoid cavity. Okay, upper part of the anterior margin. See here, suppose this one is the anterior margin. Upper part, intermediate part, lower part, like that. Upper part, intermediate part, lower part, like that. Okay. So it is attached to the upper part of the anterior margin of the glenoid cavity, above attachment. Then below it is attached to the lesser tubercle of the lesser tubercle of the humerus. Below it is attaches to the lesser tubercle of the humerus. Lesser tubercle का attach है. Upper part and right. Upper part of the lesser tubercle of the humerus. Upper part of the lesser tubercle of the humerus. Okay. Okay, are you getting? So next, number 2, middle glenohumeral ligament. Middle glenohumeral ligament. Above it is attached to the upper part annam kada. This intermediate part, this lower part anali. Intermediate part of the above it is attached to the intermediate part of the anterior margin of the glenoid cavity. Above attachment. Above it is attached to the intermediate part of the anterior margin of the glenoid cavity. Okay. Then runs downwards. It runs downwards, attaches to the lower part of the below attachment. Below it is attached to the lower part of the lesser tubercle of the humerus. Lower part of the lesser tubercle of the humerus. Are you getting? Yes. So ikkada greater tubercle idi, lesser tubercle idi. So lesser tubercle ki okatemo upper part lo, inkotemo lower part lo. Okay. Next, third one, inferior glenohumeral ligament. Next ligament, inferior glenohumeral ligament. Above it is attached to the lower part of the anterior margin of the glenoid cavity. It runs downwards. Finally attaches to the anatomical neck of the humerus. The anatomical neck of the, okay. So anatomical neck of the humerus. Are you getting? So glenohumeral. Gleno means glenoid cavity. Humeral means humerus. So humerus to three parts depend. Upper part of the lesser tubercle, lower part of the lesser tubercle, and anatomical neck of the humerus. Below attachments. Above attachments, upper part, intermediate part, lower part of the anterior margin of the glenoid cavity. Are you getting? Then next ligament. What is the next ligament? Coracohumeral ligament. Above it is attached to the coracoid process of the scapula. Above attachment. Coracohumeral ligament above attachment. Above it is attached to the coracoid process of the scapula. It runs downwards. It runs downwards. Below it is attaches to the. Below it is attaches to the intertubercular sulcus. Intertubercular sulcus. Below it is attaches to the intertubercular sulcus. See here is the intertubercular sulcus. Are you getting? So this sulcus attached out. Yes. Intertubercular sulcus. Okay. Next. What is the next ligament? Transverse ligament. Transverse ligament. Transverse ligament. Laterally it is attached to the laterally. Transverse ligament. Laterally it is attached to the lateral lip of the intertubercular sulcus. Lateral lip of the intertubercular sulcus. Lateral attachment. Next. Medially it is attached to the medially it is attached to the medial lip of the intertubercular sulcus. Medial lip of the intertubercular sulcus. Okay. So beneath this ligament there is a presence of long head of biceps. Right now. Beneath this ligament there is a presence of long head of the biceps. Long head of the biceps. Next ligament. Coracoacromial ligament. Next ligament, coracoacromial ligament. Medially, it is attached to the coracoid process. Medially, it is attached to the coracoid process, and laterally, it is attached to the acromion process. Laterally, it is attached to the acromion process. Okay. Next, glenoidal labrum. It is a cartilaginous. It is a cartilaginous rim. It is a cartilaginous rim. Cartilaginous rim. It is attached to the peripheral margin of the glenoid cavity. Peripheral margin of the glenoid cavity. Okay, so these are the ligaments. Inkoka trial endante joint cavity. Write down. Joint cavity. Beneath the capsular ligament. Beneath the capsular ligament. Beneath the capsular ligament, there is a presence of. Beneath the capsular ligament, there is a presence of joint cavity. Joint cavity. This joint cavity is lined by the synovial membrane. Joint cavity is lined by the local attachment on it. It is lined by the synovial membrane. Synovial membrane. So synovial membrane చూడాలంటే whenever we cut the fibrous capsule, so whenever we see outside, we call it as fibrous capsule. So whenever we cut it, this fibrous capsule, whenever we see the deep to the capsule, means inner aspect. Inner aspect of the capsule, it is lined by the synovial membrane. చూడండి, ఇది క్యాప్సుల్ అనుకోండి, పైన చూస్తే దీన్ని ఫైబ్రస్ క్యాప్సుల్ అన్నారు. అదే మనం ఈ కట్ చేసి లోపల చూసినాం అనుకోండి, ఈ లోపల కూడా ఫైబ్రస్ క్యాప్సులే, కానీ దాని మీద ఇంకొక లేయర్ అటాచ్ అయి ఉంది. దట్ లేయర్ ఈజ్ నథింగ్ బట్ synovial membrane. Are you getting right? Giant cavity అన్నాం కదా. So lined by the synovial membrane, then forms a synovial cavity. Forms a synovial cavity. Giant cavity is nothing but synovial cavity only. Okay. In the synovial cavity, there is a presence of transparent viscous fluid. ఓకే, ఎట్లాంటి ఫ్లూయిడ్ ఇది? ట్రాన్స్పరెంట్ లో ఉంటుంది. విస్కస్ ఫ్లూయిడ్, ట్రాన్స్పరెంట్ విస్కస్ ఫ్లూయిడ్ కాల్డ్ యాజ్ synovial fluid. Okay, so giant cavity lo undi. In the synovial cavity there is a presence of synovial fluid. So synovial fluid ela undi, it is a thick transparent viscous fluid. Thick and raskondi, it is a thick transparent viscous fluid. So దేనికి యూజ్ వస్తుంది ఇది? What is the use of this synovial fluid? Due to lubricant అంటే ఈజీగా మూవ్ అవడానికి. Due to lubricant. Okay, next, intracapsular structure. Intracapsular means in the capsule లోపల ఉండే స్ట్రక్చర్ ఏంటి అని. In the intracapsular structure there is the presence of one structure. Intracapsular structure is a one, that is a long head of the biceps. Intracapsular structure is a one, that is a long head of the biceps. So long head of the biceps originates from where? Long head of the biceps originates from where? Supraglenoid tubercle. So it is originates from the supraglenoid tubercle. That's why, so this capsular ligament covers the supraglenoid tubercle also. So that's why it is an intracapsular structure. Okay, it is an intracapsular structure. Are you getting? Okay, next, relations of the shoulder joint. Relations of the shoulder joint. First, anterior relation. Pectoralis major muscle. Pectoralis major, anterior relation. Pectoralis major muscle and short head of biceps. Short head of చెప్పనా anteriorly kalyani anteriorly pectoralis major muscle and short head of biceps and subscapularis muscle axillary artery and axillary nerve okay. Next, posterior relation posteriorly infraspinatus muscle and teres minor muscle and posterior fibers of the deltoid Next, above relation supraspinatus muscle subacromial bursa bursa subacromial bursa means space, sub means below, beneath. The subacromial means acromial cavity kinda, beneath the acromial process there is a presence of space. That space is nothing but subacromial bursa, okay. And above relation important coracoacromial ligament above relation. Next, below relation long head of triceps and teres major, long head of the triceps and teres major. Are you getting? So these are the relations. So దీన్నే ఇంకోలాగా అడుగుతాడు క్వశ్చన్. రొటేటర్ కఫ్, rotator cuff cuff, rotator cuff. So rotator cuff is formed by this all muscles. So under anterior relation unnai, posterior, superior relation, below relation. So complete this all muscles forms a rotator cuff. So rotator cuff protects the joint. Write down. Rotator cuff protects the shoulder joint. Rotator cuff muscles. ఇప్పుడు రాసుకున్నాయని మళ్ళీ rotator cuff muscles మళ్ళీ రాసుకోవాలని. rotator cuff muscles anteriorly and right muscles around anteriorly pectoralis major muscle, short head of biceps muscle, subscapularis muscle. Next, posteriorly infraspinatus muscle, teres minor muscle, posterior fibers of the deltoid. Next, above muscles. Above muscle only one. Supraspinatus muscle. Above muscle, supraspinatus. Next, below muscle, long head of triceps and teres major. So these are the rotator cuff muscles. So 4 marks kadutadu. Write down the rotator cuff. So rotator cuff is nothing but relations of the shoulder joint. So rotator cuff is a muscle cuff. It is a muscle cuff, protects the shoulder joint. Are you getting? Yes. Next, movements of the shoulder joint. Movements of the shoulder joint. Flexion. Flexion. So what is meant by flexion? Decreasing angle between the two bones. That is a flexion. What is meant by extension?
Increasing angle.
అవే రాసుకుంటాం ఇక్కడ మనం. ఫ్లెక్షన్ అనగానే దాంట్లో 2 లైన్స్ యాడ్ చేసేయాలి. ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ అంటే 2 లైన్స్ యాడ్ చేయాలి. ఓకే. నెక్స్ట్, అడక్షన్. What is meant by adduction? Adduction, add towards the body side. What is adduction of the shoulder? Next, abduction of the shoulder. Right down. Adduction of the shoulder. Abduction of the shoulder. Abduction. Next, medial rotation. Medial rotation of the shoulder. Next, lateral rotation of the shoulder. Medial rotation of the shoulder, lateral rotation of the shoulder, and bowling movement. Entadi circumduction. Circumduction. Write on the prime movers. Prime movers. Prime movers means ప్రైమ్ అంటే ముందు, మూవర్స్ అంటే జాయింట్ ని కదిలించడానికి ఫస్ట్ యాక్ట్ చేసే మజిల్స్. ప్రైమ్ మూవర్స్. నెంబర్ 1 supraspinatus. Supraspinatus and deltoid muscle. Deltoid muscle. So produces the abduction of the shoulder joint. Okay. So medial rotation by the acromial fibers of the deltoid. Acromial fibers of the deltoid and supraspinatus. Next, adduction of the joint. Adduction of the joint by the posterior fibers of the deltoid. Posterior fibers of the deltoid and serratus anterior. serratus anterior. Next, blood supply. Blood supply of the shoulder joint. Blood supply of the shoulder joint. రేఖ అయిపోతుంది. బ్లడ్ సప్లై ఒకటి రాస్తే అయిపోతుంది. బ్లడ్ సప్లై ఆఫ్ ద షోల్డర్ జాయింట్. suprascapular artery. Blood supply. Suprascapular artery and axillary artery. Suprascapular artery and axillary artery. Okay, and axillary artery రాస్తే సరిపోతుంది. Next, now supply, nerve supply. Nerve supply, suprascapular nerve and axillary nerve. Suprascapular nerve and axillary nerve. సో ఆర్టరీస్ లో ఇంకొక పేరు రాసుకోండి, థొరకో అక్రోమియల్ ఆర్టరీ అని కూడా రాసుకోండి. థొరకో అక్రోమియల్ ఆర్టరీ. థొరకో అక్రోమియల్ ఆర్టరీ ఇస్ ఎ బ్రాంచ్ ఆఫ్ మర్చిపోయారా? థొరకో అక్రోమియల్ ఆర్టరీ ఇస్ ఎ బ్రాంచ్ ఆఫ్ సెకండ్ పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ axillary artery. Second part of axillary artery, it gives the 4 branches. So number 1 is a clavicular branch, number 2 is acromial branch, number 3 is a pectoral branch, number 4 is a deltoid branch. So adi thoracoacromial ante marchipoyanu. So this is the blood supply and nerve supply of the shoulder joint. Take a 5 minutes break.